Andrew Lost. In Time. By J. C. Greenburg. 1. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. No onions on my pizza, please, said Andrew Double. They remind me of when we were attacked by snails on the coral reef. Uncle Al's face crinkled into a smile. The onions protected you from the snails, said Uncle Al. They saved your life. Andrew and his 13-year-old cousin, Judy, were sitting in the big, comfortable kitchen of Uncle Al's log cabin. Just a few hours ago, they had been deep in the Pacific Ocean rescuing a giant squid. Now they were in Montana. Uncle Al loaded a thick, cheesy slice of pizza onto a plate. Judy pulled at a string of hot cheese that had gotten tangled in her long, frizzy hair. It's too bad we had to leave Hawaii so fast, she said. We didn't even have time to eat breakfast, meep. Uncle Al had to come back, came a squeaky voice from Andrew's shirt pocket. Big trouble. It was Andrew's best friend, Thud. Thud was a little silver robot invented by Uncle Al. His name was short for the handy ultra-digital detective. Uncle Al nodded. My partner, Professor Winklewild, is missing, he said. There's a message on the hologram helper. Uncle Al pulled a round purple object the size of a golf ball from his pocket. He pressed a black button at the top of it. Tick, tock, tick, tock. A whispery voice said. Time is short, time is long. Time's a chain. Its links are strong. But there's a way to break time's hold, to tuck who I want into time's many folds. Miss Wild is gone. I'm sure you're vexed. But don't worry, Double. You'll be next. Don't look to the future. Don't study the present. She's locked in the past, and it's so unpleasant. Ha. 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 Tick, tock, tick, tock. Judy shivered. That voice gives me the creeps, she said. Uncle Al poured grape juice for Judy and Andrew. That was a scientist named Dr. Krontox, said Uncle Al. I used to work with him. He had amazing ideas, but he became obsessed with time. One day, he left our laboratory and vanished without a trace. Now it looks like he kidnapped Winka, meep. Uncle Al gotta be careful, said Thud. Don't worry, said Uncle Al. The worst enemy of a bad problem is a good plan. I'm working on a time machine. It's called the Timetron, and it's almost ready to test. Wowzers schnauzers, said Andrew. Where is it, meep? Want to see, said Thud. Well, let's go, said Uncle Al. He put the hologram helper in his pocket and headed for the kitchen door. Uncle Al's cabin was under a tall pine tree. The land beyond the tree made Andrew think of other planets. The ground was stony and dry. Tall brown rocks stood in rows like weird statues. Scruffy bushes poked up between the rocks. Uncle Al led the way up a pathlet with lights. Andrew and Judy caught up with him at the top of a hill. HNNNNNNNNNN. Came a humming sound from somewhere in the distance. It's down there, said Uncle Al. In the valley below was a giant glowing mushroom. 2. The Timetron. Andrew and Judy followed Uncle Al down the rocky path. As they got closer to the mushroom, they saw it was actually an inflatable dome. Uncle Al went to a square little box on the wall of the dome and spoke into it. Good golly, Miss Molly, he said, and part of the wall swung open. Inside was a small, empty room. Hanging from the ceiling was a giant spider web. How do you like my burglar alarm system? Asked Uncle Al. If someone tries to get in without the password, the catch-o-matic web flops down and holds them here. Uncle Al grinned at Andrew and Judy. I got the idea when you guys were trapped in the spiderweb in Mrs. Scuttle's bathroom. Andrew and Judy looked at each other and smiled. Uncle Al opened a door at the end of the little room. HNNNNNNNNNNNNNN. Now Andrew didn't just hear the humming sound. He could feel it, too. The door led into a huge room. In the middle of the room was an enormous egg-shaped object. It almost touched the ceiling. Andrew's eyes grew wide. "Wowzers schnauzers," he said. "Is that the Timatron?" said Uncle Al proudly. The top half of the egg was a clear dome. The bottom half was silver. The whole thing sat on a silver cone that floated off the ground. "Cheese Louise," said Judy. "It looks like a cooking timer. We have a little one just like it in our kitchen." "How does the Timatron work?" Andrew asked Uncle Al. Uncle Al scratched his chin. "Do you know about the speed of light?" "Yup," said Judy. "That's how far light can travel in a second, meep." 186,000 miles in 1 second, said Thud. "That's right," said Uncle Al. "If you traveled at the speed of light, in just 1 second you could cross the United States 75 times. Some people think that light is the fastest thing in our universe. But there is something that can travel faster than light." "What?" asked Andrew. "Meep." "Tachyon," said Thud. "Huh?" said Judy. Tachyon flashed across Thud's screen. "Right," said Uncle Al. "Tachyons are extremely tiny. They're much smaller than atoms. Traveling faster than light does strange things. It may even allow us to travel through time. The Timatron is fueled by tachyons." Andrew squinted at the Timatron. There was a blur in the middle of it. "Why does the middle of the Timatron look fuzzy?" he asked. "That's because of the fast fins," said Uncle Al. "They're moving so quickly you can't see them. The tachyons get the fast fins spinning faster than the speed of light and then..." Andrew started walking toward the back of the Timatron. "Andrew," said Uncle Al, "don't touch anything." "I won't," said Andrew. "But when can we try it?" "The fast-back button is finally working," said Uncle Al, "but the fast-forward button is causing trouble. You and Judy can help me with that tomorrow. But only if you promise to follow my instructions exactly." "We will," said Andrew. Judy shook her head. "Andrew, you've messed up every invention you've ever touched," she said. "Look what happened with the atom sucker. You got us shrunk smaller than a fly's eye." "That wouldn't have happened if you hadn't sneezed," said Andrew. Judy put her hands on her hips. "And what about when you broke the destination dial off the water bug? We ended up sinking to the deepest place in the world." "But we saved the giant squid," said Andrew. "Come on, guys, don't argue," said Uncle Al. "Why don't you go back to the cabin and get ready for bed? Make yourselves some hot chocolate. I'll be back in 10 minutes." Outside the laboratory, the moon was full and bright. The moonlight made the strange rocks look even stranger. When they got back to the cabin, they washed up and got into their pajamas. Judy put on her bathrobe, too. Just like his regular clothes, Andrew's pajamas had lots of pockets, and the pockets were full of stuff. Back in the kitchen, Andrew found the hot chocolate mix. Judy got the milk out of the refrigerator and warmed it up in the microwave. Andrew broke off a big chunk of Uncle Al's gooey chocolate fudge. They took their snacks into the living room and snuggled into Uncle Al's cozy sofa. "Better not get any fudge on the sofa," said Judy. "Don't worry," said Andrew. He chewed off a big bite, wrapped the rest in a napkin, and tucked it into his pajama pocket next to Thud. "H-A-H! Boo H-A-H!" came an ear-shattering sound from somewhere outside. "What's that?" asked Judy. It's an alarm, said Andrew. 3. The Tic-Toc box. Judy and Andrew ran out of the cabin in their pajamas and slippers. The sound was coming from the laboratory. H-A-H! H-A-H! When they got to the laboratory, the door was open. Pieces of the catch-o-matic were on the floor of the first room. The only thing caught in it was a piece of paper. Judy ran into the big room. Andrew found the alarm switch and shut it off. Andrew! Judy screamed. Holy moly, shouted Andrew when he saw what was happening in the big room. Floating in the air next to the timatron was a cube-shaped chunk of blackness. Flashes of lightning flickered inside it. Uncle Al, hollered Andrew and Judy. Unkai, squeaked Thud. No one answered. Andrew remembered the paper he'd seen when he came in. He went back to the front room and tugged the paper from the catch-o-matic. The thick, creamy paper was folded and sealed with an old-fashioned wax stamp. Pressed into the wax was the face of a clock. Andrew tore open the seal and ran back to the big room. Look at this, he said. Judy read the bold black handwriting. Time has power, time has locks. Time trapped double in the Tic-Toc's box. Silly children, what can you do? Your uncle is gone and you will be, too. Do you know where he is, this uncle of yours? It's a mammoth place and it's got no doors. It's terribly cold, but you need not worry. There are warm, tusky things that are horribly furry. Will his stay be long? I don't know. How long can you live? All crusted with snow? Oh no, said Judy. Dr. Krontox has kidnapped Uncle Al, Meep. Unkai, squeaked Thud. That black thing must be the Tic-Toc's box, said Andrew, hurrying back to the big room. Look what's happening to it. The Tic-Toc's box was fading. Now it was only as dark as a storm cloud. The flashes inside of it got dimmer and dimmer until the box disappeared completely. Meep. Understand puzzle, said Thud. Mammoth. Tusky. Uncle Al hidden in time when mammoths live. Could be 4 million years ago. Or could be 4,000 years ago. Mammoths on Earth 4 million years. Oh great, said Judy. I'll just set my alarm clock for 4 million years ago, Meep. Gotta use timatron, said Thud. We don't know anything about the timatron, said Judy. I guess it's time to find out, said Andrew. 4, BLA-FUM. Come on, Judy, said Andrew, walking toward the timatron. HNNNNNNNNNNNNNNN. Judy crept toward the timatron as though she were sneaking up on a sleeping dragon. There was a rope ladder hanging down from the timatron. It led to an oval door in the bottom. Andrew climbed the ladder. The door didn't have a handle or a lock, but there was a square shape in the middle. Andrew took a guess. Good golly, Miss Molly, he said into the square. Bong. The door zipped aside. HNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNN. Inside. Judy crept in after him. Bong. The door zipped shut behind them. Oh, said Andrew. It was totally dark. Maybe there's a light switch on the wall, said Judy. I'll feel around. Me too, said Andrew, reaching out his hands. I found a switch, he said, flipping it. Bong. Tachyon's loading, came a deep, echoey voice. Oops, said Andrew. Turn that switch off, bug brain, said Judy. I'll try, said Andrew. Youch, yelled Judy, tripping over something on the floor. Boo first, yelled Andrew, tripping into Judy. Andrew snagged a cord and hung onto it to keep from falling. Bong. Power cord activated, came the deep voice. Timetron preparing for time travel. The countdown begins now. 100, 99, 98. Cheese Louise, said Judy. We've got to stop this thing. We don't know what we're doing. Here's another switch, said Andrew, flipping it. A light went on. They were in a large, round chamber. In the middle was a spinning black ball. At the bottom of it, black tubes led to a bulgy shape by the wall. A label on the bulgy shape said tachyons. Next to the bulge was a screen with changing colors. Underneath the screen were rows of switches. Some had big black handles and others had red ones. The deep voice kept counting down. 59, 58. Andrew noticed a door in the ceiling. He grabbed its handle and pulled. The door opened and a rope ladder fell down. Andrew climbed into the upper compartment of the timetron. He found himself beside a silvery blue chair big enough for 2 people. In front of the chair was a flat panel. The floor had outlines of black circles and squares. 23, 22, 21. Andrew looked around the compartment. He didn't see any controls. I wonder how you operate this thing, he said. Bong. The flat panel opened up. A digital display at the top of the panel blinked today. Below the display were several buttons blinking red. The 2 biggest ones were shaped like arrows. The arrow on the left was labeled fast back. The one on the right said fast forward. Between these 2 buttons was a squiggly one marked worm drive. Bong. 3, 2, 1, came the deep voice. Time travel is now possible. The fast back, fast forward, and worm drive buttons turned green and began to flash. Andrew scratched his head.